Madera Companies, welcome back to Touch Base. We are in season 3, and we have a special guest with us today. You are the Chief Marketing Officer for all of the Madera Companies. This is John McNelly joining us, and he's going to have a conversation with us about self-awareness. This is actually the first interview that we're going to get a chance to do as we kind of move our way through this topic of emotional intelligence. And so I'm glad to have you here. Welcome to the show. This may not be the most comfortable thing to talk about, but I appreciate you being open with everybody here today. So it'll be fun.
Thanks.
For those who didn't get a chance to see your podcast that you and Kagan did just a few months back, you guys kind of got a chance to come in and talk about Quext marketing and websites and all of the Quext team and the different marketing things you're doing with Madera Residential and others. Give us just a quick bio of who you are, how you got to Madera, just whatever you want to share.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'll be very quick.
Okay.
I came to Madera in January of 2017.
Okay.
I had spent 25 years in telecommunications on primarily in operations and marketing.
Okay.
And met Dave Marcinkowski kind of at the end of my tenure in telecom, and told me about this cool opportunity that was going on with developing what would become Quext, this new technology venture. And so I was really intrigued and excited about that, and then have also had the opportunity. That's where I spend the majority of my time, honestly, but have had the opportunity to hopefully positively influence other Madera companies, and which are growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's where I came from.
So let me ask you a quick question. When you were doing telecom, were you doing marketing at the time for them too?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you've always been doing marketing. That's kind of been your niche.
Yeah, marketing and operations. On the telecom side.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Which I think gives me a little bit of a unique perspective on the marketing side, in that you can hopefully you can think of things more practically in terms of how you might roll out a product, or how it might impact the operation, the decision that you're making.
Yeah.
So
I would imagine that comes in really helpful, being able to speak as an operator of some sort with whatever the product is, just simply because as an operator, you're looking for certain things that actually help you on property and don't just sound cool.
Yeah, and that is one of our core differentiators on the Quext side, is our relationship with Madera Residential, and the fact that we have that living and breathing experience as operators to leverage in our decision making. So
sure.
Yeah. As we develop products, we try to always look through that lens of being the operator to make sure that the solutions we're coming up with are actually highly impactful and simplify the experience of operators and their residents.
Yeah. And with your wealth of experience, we can kind of transition into this conversation. We've been we're going to wrestle through this season with these 5 main factors of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, then self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and then we'll finish with social skills. And like I said, you've been gracious enough to come along and talk with us about self-awareness. But just when you think emotional intelligence in general, what things come to mind? What value does it have for you? What resonates with you about that topic?
I definitely don't have a dictionary definition for you, but for me, I just think of being real, things to come to mind, like humility, honesty, intuition. Being able to really read the room, read the people you're with. Wisdom. To me, it's just being aware of both yourself and the people around you, and hopefully, fully understanding whatever that situation is.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's interesting. And I don't know that people don't know this, but I don't know what you're going to say when you come in. So this is really just a conversation. I really like the way that you said that, though, because intuition a lot of times, and people who are able to read the room are walking into a room, and I think this happens sometimes, with an agenda or with something they want out of it when it comes to people. But you pairing intuition with humility and honesty and wisdom, man, that's a I mean, that's like high values type stuff that you put into the room and into that relationship and into whatever that dynamic can be. I really like the way that you said that. So the self-awareness piece. So that's kind of your topic to kind of talk through. What would be your working definition maybe of self-awareness?
I mean, I think it's sort of self-explanatory. Like, you understand both how you feel inside. You're honest with yourself about the emotions you're experiencing.
Sure.
And you're also aware of how you come across to others. I think if that would be my working definition there.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think those are fantastic insights, because I think the other piece of it too is, and I think the difference, going back to your understanding of emotional intelligence, is if you're gonna pair that with humility and honesty and wisdom, how you come across to others matters to you, and you want to come across well for the sake of the relationship and whatever you can accomplish together.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always.
Okay.
And if you recognize that, I find it very important to reconcile that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think so you've now said two things I think about that are really important. Kind of the understanding of reconciling your motivation and how you enter into relationships with others, but then also just the understanding of, like, I don't want to be a jerk. Like, I want to be a good person when it comes to how we interact with one another.
Right.
So when you think about, like, your specific job, when you think about the history of your work, you mentioned telecom and the relationships. You've already kind of talked about it a little bit. You don't always do it perfectly. So what have you learned, or how have you kind of grown in understanding this concept of self-awareness throughout the years?
A lot of us hide behind walls in our minds of, perception or whatever it is. They can be trying to be something we're not, or they can be hiding things from our background or whatever. And honestly, anytime you can just be freed from those walls and just be who you are, it's so liberating. And it can make relationships. It will make relationships so much healthier.
Yeah, and I would say, if you want to, that's a beautiful piece of building a culture in workplaces, of giving people a chance to be freed from having to hide and just be themselves. I think that's where diversity, inclusion comes in spades, and teaching us where that is. And we're going to get to that later on, especially as we work through this season and talk through empathy and what does empathy look like to understand other stories and different things like that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. In your relationship to your work here, with the Madera companies, like, I love looking at the fourth floor here and then also seeing some of your remote workers, because you have a very diverse group of people that you get to work with, right? I mean, you've got folks from various socioeconomic backgrounds, different family type backgrounds, various different belief systems or passions and worldviews, different ethnicities. And all of you seem to come together, different age groups, different generations, and somehow you guys do it really well. And that doesn't necessarily mean there's never conflict, but you do it really well. And so I'd love for you to talk through a little bit about how you help your team build these relationships of appreciation amongst all of that diversity.
Yeah. Other than being a father,
okay,
the title that I hold dearest is coach.
Okay.
I'm a nationally certified coach with the U.S. Soccer Federation, and I used to coach soccer players in North Carolina. And they were, at that time, boys that were very impressionable, probably 12 to 16 years. I love that dynamic, because to me, as a coach, same as leading a team, I tie these things so closely together. a leader in that sense is not the boss. They're just a member of the team that happens to coach and coordinate the actions of the team. I've always thought of myself as just a cog in that same wheel. I value my teammates' opinions. I want to hear them. I do not know everything, right? Especially when you think of game time situations. There are things they're seeing in the field. There are on the field that I don't see. There are things my teammates here are seeing in their conversations internally or externally that I don't see. They come with experiences that I don't have. Why would I hire people that have the exact same experiences that I have? We would be all the same part of the body, and we'd never really get anything done. So, boy, I'm really rambling here.
No, this is good stuff. Like, please keep going, because I think this is important for our teams to hear, whether they're on properties or in different offices. Like, this is good stuff. Keep going.
Yeah, I think being super open to their ideas and encouraging that and acknowledging that you don't know the answers, and saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to address this thing, or help us make this plan for 2022 even better. I think it's important that our conversations are very inclusive. That word gets overused these days, but that everyone feels like a valuable member of the team and can say anything and everything that they want to hear. I think I believe very firmly in treating your work team just like your sports team as a family. There are some people that think that is the worst thing you can do. In fact, I have a colleague at another company in our industry, and he basically told me in his own words the other day that he does not believe that you should have a personal relationship with your coworkers. I could not disagree more.
Yeah.
I think that's very important to have that sort of family or teammate relationship. Look, when you and your team, whether it be sports or work, are grinding it out every day, practicing, playing games, you may not get along all the time, but by golly, when it's game time and you're on the field together, you are not going to let the opponent do anything to your teammates, or you're dang sure doing everything you can to prevent them from stopping you from being successful. I love the team dynamic. I love it because you work and struggle and plan and prepare together, and then you go out together and try to win, whether in business or in sports.
Man, I'm going to jump in there a couple different things. I think there's a few things that you're bringing out that I think are really huge, because you just gave us, I think, a phenomenal definition of leadership, and understanding that it's not about being the boss and calling all the shots. It's also not about bringing in a bunch of people to your team who are either built just like you or nothing but yes men and women. You're talking about building a holistic team for the fullest impact and good and that you can do, whether it's in business or in relationships. And I think that is huge, because you're basically challenging those of us across the Madera companies in leadership with, like, it's okay not to know everything, which is good, and you shouldn't expect or think you know everything, and you should be building teams that are diverse and bring about way more experience and insight than you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. The other side of that, though, is it doesn't mean that you want to work with anybody.
Okay, talk about that for a little bit.
I have high expectations. Well, all of those things that I just said are true. But just as I was when I was a coach, I have high expectations of myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself and my teammates. High expectations, because I want to win.
Yeah.
And when I'm hiring, I'm looking for people with high EQ.
Yeah.
I'm looking for absolute badasses. I'm looking for rock stars.
Part of the reason I think, and I think I know you well enough to know this, like part of the reason you have the hiring practices that you do is because the shared mission is so important to you, which I think that's a part of that awareness piece, whether it's self-awareness, but there's also, and I think we talk about this in different places too. You talked about the sports team. There's such thing as individual self-awareness, and there's also such thing as group self-awareness. And group self-awareness almost always centers around not just EQ and emotional intelligence, what we're talking about, but like shared mission.
Yeah.
That we have a journey we have a destination we're trying to get to with this product line or this group of people or whatever this business is. And that group EQ, like we're in this together, but we're also going to hold each other accountable to that destination. That's where we want to go. So how do you balance, going back to your comment a minute ago about wanting relationships with the people that you work with, how do you balance that drive with caring for your people?
Honestly, I think honesty plays a huge role in this. We just did annual reviews.
Okay.
In my opinion, my only opinion, Rodney, sorry, I don't like to do annual reviews, not because I don't like to do them. I don't like to do them because if my coworkers and I don't know how we stand on pretty much a daily basis, that's a problem.
Okay.
I prefer to spend that time reflecting on or actually talking about future plans.
I had a mentor one time talk about like management and leadership and how those two things come together. And one of the things he talked about was as you are leading a team, you want to make 1 degree corrections as often as you can. Because if it's a 1 degree correction, it means you're so in touch with your team and you guys are so in line together and going together in the same place that you don't need massive course correction.
Yeah.
It's just 1 degree here or there because you're doing such a good job with communication.
Yeah.
So this is the last question we're going to give every single person that comes in for the interview. So here's this one,
Okay.
right? Like you manage a team that has multiple people in their 20s, people in their 30s. I mean, we've got a lot of folks across every one of the Madera companies in their 20s and their 30s. And the only reason I bring that up is like, you know, what do you know now that maybe you didn't know then? Maybe what advice would you give that crowd in there who are really kind of coming into their own when it comes to their careers and starting to maybe move into some new roles and things like that? What EQ advice would you maybe pass along to them?
Yeah, I actually made some notes on that one.
Hey, do it. Go for it. Go for it.
The first one I wrote down, and some of these are, to me, are almost like life lessons, but I think the first one I wrote down was, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think there's a lot of self-awareness in that. You know, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. If you don't know something or have a skill, admit it.
Yeah.
Work on it if you want to. But if there are things about you that you're ashamed of, whether it's your whatever it is, be vulnerable about it. Share it. I wish I had done that, some of those things earlier in life, much less, career. I also made a note that, to talk to older, wiser people that just have more experience in life. And younger people generally are much more able and quicker to adopt technology, practically speaking.
Sure.
And that's wonderful. But there are very legit learned experiences that older people have that are very much worth you learning.
Absolutely.
The last thing I had on here, which I mentioned before, is just treat your coworkers as your teammates and your family. Those are, I don't know that some of those I would have loved to have had when I was younger. So yeah, that's what I would probably tell our younger folks. Just be Be open, be vulnerable, be honest, and be a good teammate.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw others aside to get ahead. Sometimes it'll take you longer, but it'll be much more worth it and a better path.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No, I like it. There's so many good things you said there. And I think I really would hope that, or let me say it this way. One of the things I appreciate about working here, and I don't know that everybody knows this, but my background is, I did 19 years of full-time ministry. I was a pastor for 19 years before I came here. And so I would not have left that industry, for a better word, to come just anywhere. And so having gotten the chance to meet so many people here that really care as much about helping people be great people as they do about us doing great business. And I think you're one of those people. So I really appreciate your openness and your vulnerability and kind of talking through a difficult subject. But I also appreciate you reorienting us to what this should look like in the workplace, so that we can not just be our best selves, but so we can help other people be their best selves, and accomplish whatever is sitting in front of us, even from a business perspective. So thank you a lot for coming on and having this conversation. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Yeah. So we'll have another one of these for you next week, and I'm super excited to bring you self-regulation, and that will be the next subject that we kind of tackle. And then the person that we've gotten maybe we've guilted into coming onto the podcast is our VP of legal, Bridget Yeager, and so she's going to join us for that. So Madera Companies, thank you guys so much for being here. John, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.